Hello, everybody, and welcome into another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing The Substance, starring Demi Moore, John, and directed by that lady whose name I can't pronounce.
Oh, I didn't even.
Coralie, is that her first name?
Oh, that seems right.
I don't have the last. I'm not even
Fargeet?
attempt the last name. Yeah, that's
Fargeet?
why I don't want to sound like that. So
Well, what is there an alternate pronunciation? I guess
it can't be that. There's no way.
I mean,
Anyway,
could.
that's what we're doing. Joining me tonight, first up, with those cunning linguistics, joining us from Manhattan, New York City. Please welcome John to the show.
Hello, Eric.
To have the confidence of a white man, mispronouncing
She's
a lady's
French.
name.
I'm looking. I am remembering that
That's
she's
why
French.
I know
It's
I
probably
can't
not.
pronounce it.
Not Fargeet. Could be though. I don't know. Farge.
I'm sure there's no hard T in that name then. That's all I'm
Probably
saying.
not.
Next up on the show, from the cornfields of Indiana. Not many French people out there. Please welcome Casey to the show.
It's pronounced dirty.
And last up tonight, from the Bay Area of San Francisco, please welcome Matilda.
Hey, I'm excited about this one.
That's right. It's going to be interesting, and we'll get there. Let's do it. Let's take a quick break and discuss The Substance.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time. Main feature.
I keep wanting to call it The Substance. No.
That is what it's called.
That's
so
what
that
it's
would
called.
Make sense. Yeah.
Hey, you win.
That's okay if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Can anyone jump 3 steps ahead and understand what I'm going to say? I keep wanting to call it The Stuff.
Yeah.
Oh well.
I
all
feel
right.
like
fair.
there's a little bit of
Oh.
inspiration there. That's one of the movies I was getting here.
Definitely.
That's all I got. John, please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word is mucilaginous.
Gross.
Mucilaginous. Yeah, it's Mucilaginous. Mucilaginous. Means having a viscous or gelatinous consistency. Yeah, mucilaginous. Yeah,
as if viscous wasn't a disgusting enough word.
well, so I considered gelatinous. That was actually the word I was going to use. And then this came up as a synonym. And I was like, you know what? It's better.
That's what I expect from
Mucilaginous.
the word of the day. Yeah.
It does not give me an etymology, but, you take your mucus and you take your aginous, and here we are.
Gross.
So, yeah,
John, tell me about The Substance.
substance. So, yeah, I mean, you hit us with the writer, director, and producer Coralie Farge. That's how I'm going to say
Sounds
it.
better than the first shot.
She is French. She, at least, this is the second film. I was going to say the only film I know her from, but she's directed 2 features. The first is this movie Revenge, dated 2017. The thing I remember about. I mean, it's a very interesting movie. I think it was number 4 on our top 10 list that year. It was kind of the
That's
first.
definitely one the zombie gals got into the top 10. Although, no,
It
wait.
I think it
Maybe this was a
predated the zombie.
predating,
Guts.
yeah.
I think it predated that.
Yeah.
We
So-
do love it, all of us, though.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's a good movie. That was one of the first Shudder originals. It may have been the first, like when they were sort of really trying to put their stamp on acquiring new films, and being a distribution point for cutting edge horror. That movie, I mean, that's a very, I would say, straight rape revenge scenario, but with like a more modernist, feminist sensibility. It's super fun to look at. It's pretty. But I think they shared. There's some sinew shared between the films in some ways. I think visually and even maybe narratively. So in any event, The Substance, Eric, you mentioned, it stars Demi Moore. She's playing Elizabeth Sparkle, who is an aging ingenue. Like I don't know what, because she was an actress. I mean, the she's basically Jane Fonda, right? Like, isn't that sort of the like the
Yeah.
template here?
Oh, yeah.
You know, she had an acting career. She sort of had like made her splash. When we meet her,
There
she's
was
sort of
someone else I was thinking about too, but now I'm missing it. But yeah, I think that's
it'll come to you. So
Maybe.
she's at the end of her sort of career, and now she's working as like a jazzercise performer. She has a show. I can't remember what her show's called, like Working It or something like that. I can't even remember. And it's like a quaint workout video. She's got the high socks, and I mean, she's Demi Moore. She's in real life. How old is she? I actually didn't look this up. but-
61.
You know
Yeah,
what
I
this makes me
figured
think
she
of,
was like-
John.
61,
Yeah.
62.
yeah.
I'm about to tell an embarrassing story, John. But when I was like, let's say 15, I got up early every morning to go to school, and I would turn on ESPN because at like 5:30 or 6 a.m. in the morning on ESPN, they had like a horny beach workout show,
Yeah.
Totally remember it.
and that was my
Absolutely.
jam. Woke me up every day, got me ready to go.
It didn't have Demi Moore in it.
No, but it
No.
was a similar vibe.
Yeah. I mean, this thing that that Coralie is doing is not like
This is
from
over
nowhere.
the top. This is shot in a way that you wouldn't actually see on TV, but it's like it's very
Well,
like sort of.
Let's come to it. Let's work our way to it. But so she is. So Elizabeth Sparkle is at the end. She
Casey's
is.
got me.
She's basically being pushed out of her spot here on network television. In this universe, I mean, this is very much a satirical film. Like, it's not like everything is not like it meant to be experienced literally necessarily. So it was very amusing. Like, there's like one show on this network that we ever know about, and it's like the most important thing that the network executive is thinking about. Network executive played by Dennis Quaid. Just inspired. I saw that Ray Liotta was originally cast, and then he
Good
you know,
casting
Yeah.
too.
No, it would have been great. I mean,
Yeah.
look, Dennis Quaid. This is
Quaid
like
brings it.
it's so fucking creepy. It's unbelievable. So Elizabeth Sparkle's being pushed out. She sees an ad. I'm trying to think. The first time she sees, there's like an ad that she sees for. Oh no, she gets in a car accident. We can whatever. It's crazy that I like forget that there's a car accident scene in this movie.
I want to come back to the Quaid thing because I have. A
Oh,
thought.
we're gonna come back to the Quaid thing. Like, there's a lot of stuff to cover here. But in any event, she gets in this car accident. She lands at the hospital. A like young, like almost too good-looking nurse or assistant slips her a piece of paper, and he's like, "Hey, if you're interested, it's The Substance, right?" And so she checks it out. The Substance basically says you're gonna take this medicine, and it's going to create a younger you. It doesn't explicitly spell it out at the time. She gets this box. This is all a setup to say she takes this medicine. She then births a younger version of herself out of her back, like just rips out the back of her. That person, played by Margaret Qualley, Margaret. She is named Sue. She calls herself Sue, and they now have this rule that they have to live by, which is Sue gets 7 days, and then she has to switch back with Elizabeth Sparkle. And so they're meant to live these like 7-day existences. There's this like convoluted system where you have to like feed the one who's unconscious, and then the one who's alive can sort of like draw life force from them, whatever. And so that's what they do. And there's all these rules that the substance company sets out, like you're one person, don't mess around with this. And this is just a setup for Sue to sort of rise and for her youth and her energy, her life force to shine forth, and that to
vigor.
overshadow Elizabeth Sparkle. And it becomes this sort of battle between the two of them that's not taking place directly, but is taking place very indirectly by the way Margaret Qualley is behaving, Sue is behaving, and then the way that Demi Moore is behaving when she is the one who's in charge. And so it sort of devolves from there. I think I'm going to put a pin in it because like we should get to like how far it devolves and then, cover some of the fun at the end.
Matilda, what'd you think?
I was super jazzed coming into this because I love revenge. And this one had a similar, as we see, like fluid budget. And this movie almost lost me a couple of times, I have to say, but ultimately I think you can kick me out of the pool at the end of the year now because I think this is at number one for me and it's going to be pretty hard to beat. This is campy and wild and it goes way too far. And I really respect that about it. This movie kind of is like Frankenstein meets Whatever Happened to Baby Jane meets Inside Out.
That is, you know why that's so interesting? Because those are great polls, but they're completely different than the ones that I came up with. That's an interesting thing about this. movie. There's
I'm
just
so
lots
interested
of-
to hear. Yeah.
There's lots of genre stuff happening.
Yeah. And, when I heard that Demi Moore was going to be the lead in this, I am embarrassed to say I wasn't sure how that was going to go or that she was going to be up to it, but she was incredible in this. I think there's a lot of things that people could rightfully criticize this for, like it's overlong, it's cartoonish. It does torture the audience in like a Requiem for a Dream type of way at times. And
That was one of my.
I think
that was
this
one of my comparisons.
Yeah.
It reminded me of
this movie just like
It reminded me of. Oh God, my brain today. The mom in Requiem for a Dream from The Exorcist. What is her name?
Ellen Burstyn.
Ellen Burstyn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that whole
Yeah.
storyline of her trying to lose weight because she thinks she's going to be on TV. Like, get similar vibe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what this movie does so well is that it gets at the way that for women, I think that the beauty industry lives at the intersection of like self-care and self-loathing. Right? And I think that this does such a great job of embodying that conflict in some huge ways and then in some surprisingly subtle ways. I found myself after this movie, John, like you couldn't even remember the car accident. It's like Titan in a certain way. Like I'm like, oh yeah, there was a whole scene with the Macarena and the CPR, right? Like there's things you can't even remember because you're just being assaulted by things happening in this movie. But it's so interesting because like we never see a doctor with the substance. Like I would argue that in horror, one of the hardest things to watch for me is people doing violence to themselves. And this movie has that in a really interesting way, right? This is a self-administered substance. And then it's not until the very end that we see that violence kind of come out on someone else. And that's pretty satisfying to me. So I'm super excited to hear what you
I
all
think
thought about it.
violence against the self is so jarring because like it's like this uncanny valley thing. We're all so deeply programmed not to hurt ourselves. So to watch someone willingly do it is like horrifying.
Yeah, we should be uncomfortable with it, right? It was actually
Right.
one of the tests they gave us in psych school. Like you should be uncomfortable thinking about this. If you're not, you should worry about yourself a little bit.
It's like the humanity test. They're just like, sorry, you're a psycho. You do not pass psych school.
Oh no, it's like a self-preservation test, right?
Yeah,
like
no.
we shouldn't be able to imagine that so carefully. Yeah.
Casey, what'd you think?
I went into this pretty blind because I started hearing people getting fired up. I hadn't even really watched the trailer, so I decided at that point I'm not going to go looking for it. I'm going to go in fresh, and I'm so happy I did. I love this. By the end of it, there's so much going on here with this movie. The body horror, I think, is top notch. They went for it, and it is out there, and it is bizarre. And there was moments that made me go, "Oh shit!" Which, I consider myself kind of desensitized to that stuff, and so when they can surprise me, make me go, "Oh damn!" It makes me really happy. More than anything, I really love the direction of this movie. This movie looks fantastic. I love some of the choices that the director made for this to make it economical. We saw that switch process once, and I loved how the scenes just switched to Sue or Elizabeth back and forth, and that it just made this movie flow so well, and it was easy to get lost in it. Yeah, it was a pretty long, at 2 hours and 13 minutes, but I never felt like it was like badly too long. I was still pretty sucked up into it. And the parts in this movie, I mentioned this over text briefly, but the parts of this movie in between the body horror moments, I think are crafted to like give you anxiety, and I think it's done really well. This movie, those quiet moments made my skin crawl in this movie, and I can't fully explain why, but they was just played on my anxiety to where every little thing I was just like, oh damn, oh whoa, and just as these little surprises pop up, and it was just a really fascinating movie. And I'd heard all the hype about what to expect for this movie. Like, you watch the first hour and a half and you're like, oh, that's messed up. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's way messed up for like the next 20 to 30 minutes. Then it's like, oh shit. And they were right.
John.
Yeah, I also think this is probably my favorite movie of the year. I'm ready to call it now. Is like how strongly I felt coming out of this. I saw this at like 10:30 in the morning on, I think the Friday it came out, like the Friday it opened. I think maybe I was
This is
Sorry.
a lot for a morning.
Well,
Yeah, I know.
and I can't remember if I was texting you guys or if I might have just been texting Rachel because she had seen it and I didn't want to spoil anybody. But it was like me. There was like a 65-year-old, like a senior citizen couple sitting like directly behind me. It was like a pretty empty theater. I just fucking loved it. I mean, it is so dialed into what it's trying to do, right? Like I think Matilda, you mentioned it's cartoonish, right? Like it is intentionally cartoonish. The Dennis Quaid character is incredible, and like the way that he's shot, and like the way it's shot in sort of first person perspective a lot of the time. The scene of him eating the shrimp is like top 3 grossest scene in the movie.
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
in a movie where like a lot of really gross shit happens.
Everything about that scene is chef's kiss. It's just perfect.
It's incredible.
Yeah. The sound. Oh, yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
really disgusted me? He's dipping the shrimp in congealed butter. It's not
Yeah.
like melted butter, and you're seeing him like squish it in.
He's just
and-
like slamming it in there.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
He's so good. It's truly
hideous.
incredible.
Down
And doing all that, he saw his friend and didn't even wipe his hands off before he went and hugged that guy.
Yeah. No, but then you look at how cartoonish the version of the workout show that Sue does is compared to like it's so over the top sexualized. Like it's just glorious. It's
satire.
I
To me, it goes
know.
hard into satire territory.
It is
which gives
satire.
it that freedom to like play in a sort of larger than life
No, and
you know,
but it's just so well done and like dialed in. Like they, Eric, you mentioned like getting up and watching the like ESPN work. Like this
Yeah.
was that, but if they were just like, what if this was only made for like horny like teenage boys, basically?
But it just goes on and on, right?
Oh.
like it just keeps
Yeah.
coming. That
Yes.
scene. Yeah.
it's just
No.
ass shots. Which honestly, if that's what the ESPN show was, I would have watched more probably.
So I loved like there's so many things. Like they put the fucking billboard up outside her house. Her house is like super high up and like looks out over LA or whatever. And then all of a sudden there's just like this
you know what
billboard
it
floating
is?
in the middle
This
of
is what I
nowhere.
kept. This is one of my polls. It hardcore feels like an elevated episode of Black Mirror.
100%.
Black Mirror has nailed this
Yeah.
kind of near future fever dream aesthetic, and it definitely feels inspired by some of those episodes.
that was one of the things I wanted to toss out. If this had started its life as a Black Mirror script, I would not have been surprised. Here's the thing. Where this goes and how like the last 30 minutes, like I mean, I've seen most of, if not all the Black Mirrors, like this thing goes real hard, like harder
Yeah.
than almost anything I've seen in a theater in a long time. And for me, that's where I was trying to explain this to Suzanne, because this is how I was like obsessed with this movie. I came home, Suzanne's home, because whatever, we both work from home most of the time. And like she's like trying to do work, and I was like trying to tell her about this movie that she's never gonna watch it. She was curious because of the Demi Moore thing, but I'm like talking to her about it, and I was just like, you got to understand, like this thing goes to places I just never expected I would see a movie go to. So, that for me, that's all it takes sometimes,
Yeah.
Yeah. This film, I think, is pretty easily like an instant horror classic. Like it is bold in a way that films are not often. And like now I have issues with it and I'm going to get to that, but largely my feeling is that, my issues aside, it's very clear that she's made something here that's really struck a chord with a lot of people, and I think is so ripe for. And I haven't had part of it is like I haven't had a lot of time to digest it myself, but it's just so ripe for intellectualizing. It's so ripe for like think pieces and digging into it and symbolism. There's a lot that I don't understand. There are some questions I have about things like if they totally kind of jive in the end, but like it's just kind of an undeniable piece of art. Like regardless of what you think of how the parts come together, like you are not going to be the same after you watch it. And I think that to your point, Matilda, like sometimes that can make up for things being a little rough around the edges. I don't like revenge, and I'm too tired to relitigate it. But part of it was she's not a subtle artist, and that's okay. That's her thing. To me, that over the topness in a rape revenge film made me uncomfortable, which was part of it. But it works beautifully here. And there's a thing about the Demi Moore casting that makes like a meta thing that makes it so brilliant, which is that like this version of her life, it's a version of her story. You're looking at a person that was like sexualized from a very young age in Hollywood and played these very sexy roles, disappeared for a while. Then she had the very high profile comeback with Striptease, where again, it was all about like her body being on display and like, oh, she's a MILF now. And it's like, you literally like, remember the like Hollywood, the Hollywood story, like, or whatever, the Entertainment Tonight, like the whole, all the marketing around the movie is about how hot, can you believe she's so hot? She's like 40. Like it was just like so wild, but so perfectly of that era. Right. And so that's, I think she brings such depth to the performance because I think she must relate to this on some level.
Yeah, and she's been out doing media.
Yeah.
I mean, she's been the face of this in a way
Yeah.
that's been, I think, really helpful.
You know, obviously like a really bold performance, a lot of nudity, a lot of really insane effects. And so, you know, I was getting Black Mirror, I was getting Requiem for a Dream. The effects at the end are like so Society.
Yes, I
to
got.
me.
That's what I got.
Dude, this definite Society fan, either in the effects house or like she is herself.
Well, the other one, Slither. I feel like there's a lot. I mean, just visually.
Yeah, there's some of that too.
Slither, yeah. We can get to the ending and stuff. You know, for me, it's like I think it's too long. I think that there are ways that it could have been streamlined. Although, usually with a film, I can pretty easily be like, "This is exactly where I would snug it up." But I don't know that I get that exactly here. I just know it's too long. I was very ready for it to be over by the time it was. It's not even like one thread or one scene. It's more just like every scene is like a little shaggy. Like it could just be a little tighter.
She lets it breathe. They let a lot of scenes breathe for sure.
Yeah.
I actually love that it's so over the top, and then it's essentially like a kind of funhouse mirror version of reality, where the only things that exist are things that back up her thesis, or right, like the only things we see and exist are things that are constantly reinforcing her messages. Now, I don't exactly know what all those messages are. Of course, I understand the broad strokes, right? There's like so many threads about sort of feminine beauty being a thing that is sort of communal property and that is used up and then discarded by like society at large. That part I understand. I think where I'm a little fuzzy on the metaphors is when we bring in the like other version of her. And like here's my question. I'm going to call it a question.
I have a thought on this, but go ahead.
I do not,
Me too.
taking from the text of the film, I actually in no way understand what the upside is for her, because she doesn't seem to have any connection to the life this other woman is living. There's multiple scenes, right? What I think of the interview scene. She's watching that interview as if she doesn't know what is said or doesn't know what is happening. So I'm like, if she's not getting to experience the young, hot life, what is she getting out of it? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That part doesn't make any sense to me. And the reason why I'm now struggling with it is that it's the whole fucking point of the movie.
Yeah.
So I don't totally get, like, to me, if like, it would have made more sense to me if in the beginning she was coming back and being like, ooh, that was awesome.
Well,
I
her
banged that
consciousness
young guy.
doesn't switch.
And I'm like, right, but she then has opportunities to shut it down. And to her, if she's like, well, to me, it's like, I'm not even getting anything out of this. Why would I keep doing this?
Well,
I don't get that.
I wondered too if this, if the switching back and forth every 7 days was supposed to go on for the rest of her life, or if at some point it ended and they merged, which we don't find out.
Well, we know
Like,
that
that's fine, but
the Matrix, which is what they call Demi Moore, who's like the primary, because Margaret Qualley is a, whatever, a offshoot, whatever. I can't come up with the right word
she's
right now.
just
Adam's
in
rib.
no way
Yes.
enjoying. She's in no way enjoying the fruits of this life that this young, sexy version of her is living.
So,
She already had the house and the money. The
She-
young chick's living in her house. Like,
I mean,
what?
Matilda should speak to this probably, but like my read on it was like, she's living vicariously through her, right? Like she knows
How?
what that is like because she
They
knows
don't
what
talk.
it's like.
She's
Well,
not telling her the stories. She
it's-
doesn't know what
but
happened. Like,
Eric, this is the thing. Like
get it.
it's, but that was the fundamental mistake that she made. Like she has this idea that she's going to take the substance. There's going to be this younger version of herself, and that she will be able to enjoy it. But we know she's not enjoying it because she sits on the couch and like eats gross food all day, which then disgusts the younger version of herself. Which
so why
then
wouldn't she shut it down
exacerbates-
earlier? Is my question.
Well-
Especially when she starts turning into like a literal like bog witch.
I mean, because it forces her to, reconcile with the fact that she is aging and
Yeah.
dying. Like that's.
I had a thought
that's
about it, which
ultimately-
is that, yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
the first person we see saying it changed his life is that nurse. And I kind
And
of
that's the
took
young
this
version.
as
Yeah.
that's the young version, presumably, right? So I kind of took this as a younger generation in Hollywood, kind of like cannibalizing and living off older generations while being disgusted with them, right?
Yes.
Like, and so we also get that scene in the diner where there's the older version maybe of the nurse
It's
That's
the
what I
of
nurse.
thought.
someone.
Yeah.
It's the nurse
It's
because
the
he
nurse,
like
right?
Flash to him.
yeah. Matilda,
Right. And so
I think
I
you're
think there's
100%
something
right. It's a generational war story at the same time. Like it is very much hitting on these themes of like the beauty industry and the parasocial is not even the right word. It's like there's whatever.
What's
there's
interesting, right, is like that does track for me, and we do see the nurse, right, is like a man who has done this, but on the other hand, we also see people like Dennis Quaid, who are hideous. Like that's kind of what I love about his characters. They make such a point. Like he is a disgustingly hideous human being, but by virtue of being like a man with power, he's able to retain everything that she loses,
Yeah, he doesn't have the same problems
Right.
to worry about as she does.
even though he is like disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
and
go ahead, Matilda. Sorry.
oh, sorry. Like there's no winning for her. right? Like part of what I love
Yeah.
about this parable is that there is no winning, right? She does the thing and then she's we'll talk about the end, but like there is no winning
No. The best
in
case
this game.
scenario
It's
to
such an
Casey,
interesting move. Yeah.
the best case scenario to Casey's point is like they live like this forever, and like Margaret Qualley gets to like live out the best version, or the younger version of Elizabeth Sparkle's dreams, right? But like Elizabeth Sparkle dies at some point, and Sue dies, right? Like she needs the Elizabeth Sparkle life force to keep going. We see what happens. So I loved this like generational war that sort of evolves, right? Because Sue becomes increasingly disgusted. That leads her to basically make this decision to like squeeze as much life force out of the Demi Moore character as she can. But because she gets greedy, it like all falls apart. Like because they only can coexist by sort of supporting one another. And I do think
Yeah.
that there's like another commentary there about I mean maybe about because I mean I do think it's explicitly sort of about women and like feminine generational internecine warfare, I guess. But I love like one of the best scenes when they have the fight, and then she has the moment where she's killing her with the black goo that gets sent to her, and she stops and she like can't go through with it. And obviously that then, leads to everything else that happens at the end. But
Well, that makes it. That hearing you guys talk about it helps make more sense as far as how long this back and forth goes, because that's like their main rule that they repeat throughout the movie is remember you are one.
yeah.
So I think that comes down to more of a like a synchronicity between the two of them is what the end goal is.
And to be clear, like Elizabeth Sparkle, if anything, is the one that undermines the relationship first, because she's the one who's kind of gives up, right? Like we see, it's really like that first 7-day period after Margaret Qualley has her run, she like defaults to like sitting on there's like the shot of the divot in the chair in front of the TV, and like the kind of like food that's just been left out, and so then when Sue's back in charge, she's like, holy shit, like she's really not taking care of herself, and there is a there's a jealousy and that sort of infects where Elizabeth Sparkle is, and then it just ratchets up from there.
Well, and I think that's somewhat about the fact that they're both her, right? That when we first meet Demi Moore and Elizabeth Sparkle, like she's both of those things. And then when she takes the substance, she's two things. And so there's then the like, whatever, rose white, rose red, Grimm's fairy tale thing that you have going on, where like now there's like the rejected self. And I couldn't tell if some of the eating stuff was just like repressed desire, or if it was like a nod to Jane Fonda's famous bulimia during the period she was a workout like goddess, right? But there's something about like rage and eating and cooking and just like this crone piece in the kitchen that's pretty great, that's being cannibalized by this younger generation, or this younger part of her.
Yeah,
right. That
she was really
part out into the world that she can't experience it.
Yeah, that's when she was cooking that chicken, right? And just getting more increasingly on the chicken.
It's so gross. I love
as long as this movie is, I really wanted to see the date that didn't happen. I don't know why. That guy was just like so good in his role.
The high school
weird.
dude.
Yeah.
That scene
creepy.
So brutal.
He's just sad.
And I think
it's that scene when she's like wiping the
that was
makeup
one of the
off. Oof.
Yes, that was a good scene.
Yeah.
That was the one when I was thinking that like there are some subtle moments in this movie where she's kind of looking at herself in the mirror.
I mean, Demi was fantastic in this movie. Yeah. I mean, she really does carry it, and Margaret Qualley is great too. I mean, she carries her part of the movie just as well. But Demi in this, especially when she stepped out of, in front of the camera for quite a while, and some of the history, like we talked about, to see her come back and put in this performance, it was just great, and she became more unhinged, and I was really impressed with her performance here. And I was never really a huge Demi fan growing up either.
Yeah.
G.I. Jane? Come on, man.
Honestly, is it One Cruel Summer? Is that what? No, what's the
One Crazy Summer?
One Crazy Summer?
Yeah.
One
Well,
crazy.
yeah, that
summer.
one, of course.
I mean, that was very young. This shit was like the kind of beginning of her career.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that movie's ridiculous. I haven't seen it in 20 years. It's
incredible.
probably... Yeah, I'm sure it's like real inappropriate at this
Oh,
point.
I watch it. Yeah, it's rough. I watched it a couple years ago.
Yeah, we used to watch that all the time.
It's so good.
I loved the mechanic of Demi Moore getting grosser as
The finger.
Sue was like
So
cheating.
here's
The
another part of
finger.
this that I didn't really talk about. This has been like a thing in the last couple of years that I've decided. Like, I don't like body horror. Like, my body's horrific enough. I don't need a reminder of it.
Yeah.
And this thing is just disgusting. And like, it checks all the boxes for the worst shit I hate in body horror. First, it goes for the teeth, and then from like a mile away, you see it start like she's about to rip her nail out, and I went, oh come, like out loud. I was like, come on, I don't want to watch that.
Mine kicked in when we first started seeing that infected spot on Demi's spine where Sue had been stealing the spinal fluid. It's like,
And
oh,
then the one
Jesus.
time when she goes to take the spinal fluid out, and it's just like, green,
Yeah,
like
and
dark
junky.
green. Oh, I can see. Like, yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah.
and that's part. I'm just repulsed by the entire endeavor.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the point. Like, I understand that, but I'm
I
fragile these days, John.
I maybe have an opposite reaction to body horror. It was just like, like the hearts got bigger and bigger and bigger in my eyes. But that was like when she becomes the monster, like that is one of the places that I was really worried this was going to lose me, because I was in a theater of people who started to laugh at that point. And I was like, uh-oh.
I mean, it's
But
funny
then
though.
when
Like
she-
I was laughing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is when she's putting the earrings in, like then I'm kind of
Oh.
back, right? But like, or when she drops the boob out on stage.
Yes.
But
Oh my god. the
when
boob.
she like weaponizes that body against the audience, I was all the way back. I was like,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
number one of the year.
Did anyone
That's
else
it.
feel like, yeah, weaponizes, but also it was like, here's my boob. And it just like falls out in the stage. Like,
I don't think she
Oh
was
my-
doing that
Yeah.
on purpose.
that
That
was
like
so dark.
No,
No,
See,
so dark.
To me,
I
that
felt like she did.
speaking of polls, to me, that final finale is 100% Carrie. Really?
Sure.
They got her up
yeah,
on
for sure.
stage, and
Yeah.
when they dump the pig blood on her, it's pretty much
Now, it's the difference with Carrie is Carrie was like tricked into coming on stage, you
I
know,
was
and like
dying
getting the
over
Yeah.
the printed out picture of her face.
The printed out picture of her
was so
face was
good.
my maybe favorite part.
There's
yeah.
a little bit of there's a little bit of May DNA in here. I feel
Yeah.
like too.
But I also love that she made it all the way to the front of the stage and the spotlight, and she's got that face on, and still nobody reacted until the
She's
face of the
And
mask
the
comes off.
showgirls are like,
yeah. Who are all topless, by the way, like on
Yeah.
network
I did
television.
notice that.
Just like,
did
what is
notice
going
I
on?
know. I was like, this is pretty French. This is getting,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true. But then
it's
it's
like,
like,
right, she's French. Yeah.
what even causes the blood spewing to start? Like, she gets shot? Does she get shot, or is like, I couldn't remember.
One guy takes her head off with like a chair or something.
Yeah. So the blood starts spraying,
yeah.
and then she's just like elephant spewing the blood. The entire audience gets covered. I mean, it was so amazing. And then she walks down that hallway, which this hallway we've seen several times. It's sort of like
Yeah.
there's like probably an important metaphor in the hallway at some level.
There's a sick hallway in our house too. Lots of good.
I
visuals.
thought the movie was going to end with the hallway, like once she walks through the hallway, and then there's a shot of just the blood dripping down the walls, and I was like, oh, that's it. Like, A
Yeah.
plus,
Yeah.
clapping. And then we get the shot of her outside just lumbering through the, I guess, like, was it dawn? It was like sort of dawning, or it was just like a weird light situation. I don't know. So sad. Just brutal.
One of my favorite effects in this was the eyeballs when they first took the substance, and we saw it when the first time when Demi took it, and you see like the pupils separate, and then
Yeah.
2 eyeballs were there. So then later, when Sue injects herself again with the substance, and all of a sudden you saw like 5 pupils, and then all of a sudden like 5 eyeballs pass through there, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And it does look like practical effects to me. Does it look like practical
Oh,
effects
yeah.
to you all?
Oh,
I
yeah.
was pretty into that with like Demi in the back, just like trying to get the zipper up over her.
Yeah.
With like her one arm just like sticking out.
Yeah, one arm sticking
Oh my
backwards.
God.
Yeah.
It was so crazy. I really, one of the other movies this made me think of is Antiviral. Like there's a lot of that sort of like clinical
Yes.
white, like
Yeah.
especially in the bathroom that she's in for a lot of the movie. I just did not expect this to go as far as it did, right? Like the one that when the monster comes out and then as that stuff all unfolds and when the monster like explodes at the end, I mean just beautiful, really.
Yeah. I do have a thing about that bathroom. I am convinced that bathroom is a white version of the black bathroom in the Olivia Newton-John physical video from like 1980, which was an aerobics video.
Yeah.
Has anybody else
I mean,
seen
I
that?
remember
That's
the video.
filmed in this.
That's good.
Yeah.
Physical.
I could not place the bathroom, but I believe
Which
you.
makes me think of The Office.
You know, one thing that may have gave me anxiety in the non-body horror scenes in this, she gets that substance out of the drop box and stuff, and she's going through that box the first time, and they're talking, we got the voiceover of all the steps, this stuff, and I'm watching her unbox that stuff, I'm like, there's not enough instructions for this.
Dude.
I'm gonna fuck it up.
I had the same exact thought. Yeah, it's just like 3 sentences in big bold letters.
Yeah.
I'm like, boy, they make an awful lot of assumptions about how you're supposed to do this.
Yeah.
Also, it made me laugh that like after you've done it and you realize like, oh, I'm gonna slam my head on the floor. Like, put a pillow down. It's your own head. You're like, it's not even like you're doing it for the other person. You're doing it for yourself. Like you're gonna pass out and hit the ground.
Yeah, maybe lay down before you give yourself the shot.
Well, how about that one of the things in the
Yeah.
box is a fucking kit to sew up the spine of the person who has just fallen and
Yeah.
like, zonked themselves out.
But
And
how
then
did
she
the
leaves
twin-
her on that bathroom floor for the week. Like she's there the whole week, basically.
With
Because
a
it's
little
not
food
till the
bag.
subsequent week that she like builds the room
Their
for her to
food
like
bag.
hide in.
Does that count as intermittent fasting, John?
Yeah.
How does Sue know that she has? How does Sue know the rules? That's what I want to know.
Well, the box is still there. Like all the information's there.
Yeah, but you get birthed
And I
out
think
of
they
Demi
do
Moore's
share a
spine.
brain.
they share. There's something, right? But they're not the
Yeah.
same. They're not
Yeah.
one person, but they are one person. I don't know, according to
Sure.
the substance. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, don't overthink it. Like
okay.
it's crazy.
Oh, I know.
So
All I'm saying is, I get birthed out of Demi Moore's back. My first reaction isn't going to be, "Oh, good, there's instructions."
Whoa. The hell's happening?
Yeah, what the hell did I just
My
have to do?
ass.
That's a whole nother movie. Me being birthed out of Demi Moore's back.
yeah, that's more horrifying.
Good God.
Yeah.
It's. I think it's really interesting to see this in theaters. Like,
Oh,
it's a pretty
yeah.
wild thing
Well,
to be
so-
on a wide theatrical release.
There's a bit of a business
Yeah.
background story here. If you want it really quickly, this is, I don't know if you all clocked this. This was
Yeah.
the first theatrically distributed movie by Mubi, MUBI. Have you guys ever heard of Mubi? Or are you familiar with Mubi?
Is that the same movie?
Yeah.
It's a streaming service. It's basically
Clerks
like an
too.
upscale like art house streaming service. This was supposed to be distributed by Universal. Universal effectively declined. I mean, I was just reading this, before. It's not exactly clear, but it then went because they wanted it to go compete at Cannes. The filmmaker did, and so it won the best screenplay award at Cannes, and it was like in the Palme d'Or or whatever competition. Universal before Con had basically said like we're not going to distribute it. It goes to Con and then Mubi picks it up. It did. It was in 1900 theaters, which is pretty wild. It didn't like kill. Like let's be clear. Like it's not blowing the doors off anything, but yeah, wild.
Are
Presumably,
you telling me
it'll
that
be.
that means that there's not going to be a Universal Studios ride related to this movie? Because I would really like to go on that ride.
Next year at Halloween Horror Nights,
Yeah.
Demi Moore,
Yes.
the Demi Moore Chimera monster. Yeah. So
John, how do we feel about Dennis Quaid playing this role as a Trump supporter?
I love. Wait, is he a Trump?
No.
You mean in real life he's a Trump supporter?
I just Googled
Yeah.
it. He sure
Oh,
is.
I mean, all right. I don't know.
Yep.
Then.
His brother definitely is.
Makes me think he doesn't know this is satire.
I'm pretty sure he gets it.
Eh.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is.
Cool. All right. Would you recommend this, Matilda?
Yes, I immediately called my mother and told her to go see it. I got
John,
this.
Yes.
Casey.
Absolutely.
I'm also a yes. Man, I would to like get out and see it with a crowd. Probably worth it.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more.
Zing indeed.
Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
Yeah, your MTV aerobics, Eric. I'm pretty sure that's what my dad was watching every morning when I got up in college.
It was ESPN. But yeah. John, did we know this? That Demi Moore was the ass on the I Spit on Your Grave poster?
No.
I did not.
Iconic ass. Who knew?
When she's very young. Yeah.
Let's see what other comments we got. Talking about the shrimp scene, misophonia masterpiece. The whole movie is that we didn't even really talk about
Yeah.
the sound design, but like
Yeah.
it is almost ASMR-y with like the worst sounds ever. Lots of like hands touching skin and
Squelching.
stuff. Like
Yeah. Blorping.
when she's
There's some-
hooking up with a guy and the guy's like rubbing her
Yeah.
butt. It's like shh. It's like so. Yeah, it's really really crazy.
Yeah.
I was fine with that scene actually, but I don't know.
Mikey P says ESPN workouts! Exclamation point.
Yeah.
I didn't fever dream it. It was real. They were always on a beach or something. Real pleasant music. Sun would be coming up. I sort of repeated that later in life when I used to talk about this in the show, but when I had the last time I had cable, which was a job I was working, they gave me free cable because it was like an ownership. They were part owned by the cable company. I had all the movie channels. And I would get up really early in the morning before I went and run, and I would sit and eat cereal. But I would get up at 5:30, and it hadn't turned over to morning programming yet. And I would just sit there and eat cereal and watch like softcore porn, like whatever the last feature was that was on the night before. And like that was when I started realizing there's really like a
Emmanuel.
tiered system of quality. Like I won't get into it, but there's very wildly differing types of softcore, and that I wasn't aware of.
No, let's get into it actually.
Well, I think what I said at the time was like you can tell when all the people involved like are artists that want to do real things, but this is what they're doing now, and they're all put like the actors, the director, they're all like putting their all into it, and it's like a higher quality than it has any right to be. Then there's the ones that are like this is directed by a dude who just got out of prison. And it's just like the trashiest Russ Meyer thing or whatever you could like ever imagine. So there's a whole like spectrum.
Yeah. I'm gonna need some examples. You just email me some examples. I'll have to dig in myself. I'm not as familiar.
Buy me cable, John, and I'll go get back to curating these things for you. It ruined me on cable because
I will
had
say,
I had every movie channel, and it was like, why would I ever go buy? I'm not going to just buy basic ass cable. Sorry, Matilda.
yeah. I know I was thinking about as you're talking about like watching those aerobic shows early in the morning. There was a show in the 80s called Solid Gold that really did like
Oh,
just
yeah.
get all up on the ass. Like it was just ass shots mostly. Did you all
Well,
watch this show? It was like jazz dancers and a puppet.
I remember that.
there is a scene in the opening of Friday the 13th part 4. 4? When there's like a creepy paramedic dude, or like he's a morgue attendant, and Jason's in the morgue, and he's trying to hit on his like nurse or whatever, his like assistant, and they're watching one of these things on TV, one of these like butt workout videos. It's just all butt, and they're like, yeah, it's the whole thing. And I remember watching and thinking, like, is this real? Like, is this actually real?
Oh yeah.
I guess
I'll be googling Solid Gold later. Just incognito
You should.
mode,
It was
obviously.
actually my ambition to be on that show as a kid because it was like jazz dancers who dancing to the Lionel Richie hits of the week. It was such a weird phenomenon. And then there was like a puppet. Yeah, it was great.
Yes, Mike. John played Yes and with me on the night when I'm too tired to respond properly, which is really the ultimate no or.
Just a little tease for you, Eric.
Oh my god. Oh yeah. No emails. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. What do we got on Twitter, Casey?
We got a couple threads out here. First one from Matt Lloyd Poet. Have you had any outer body experiences when experimenting with a substance?
Oh, with a substance? No. Does disassociating count when you're sober? Because I've had that.
Yeah.
No, the answer is no.
I honestly think I did once, but it was from like 4 days of sleep deprivation instead of a substance.
I've talked about it a lot, but I did used to hardcore lucid dream and have like sleep paralysis and night terrors. And when that would happen, I was like conscious the moment I went into sleep, and I would feel my body sink into my bed like it was water. And I could physically feel myself transition from awake to into the dream. And that's when I was like lucid dreaming, and I knew I could like control what was happening. It was an absolutely wild feeling. Usually ended with me sweating and waking up and thinking I was screaming when I wasn't. So not the most fun, but every once in a while I would get a lucid sex dream, and it made it all worth it. It was like, imagine you're in a sex dream and you're like, wait, I can have this be exactly who I want to be and have exactly what I want to be happen.
I don't need to know anymore.
I can make this the good softcore.
Yes, and John.
And scene.
All
So
right.
yeah, not
I
from a
think I've had
substance,
I've had it from a substance because once I had to have a really terrible root canal once, and they were like, you can either kind of do this on your own with just Novocaine, or for $50 you can do this with a lot of nitrous. And I was like, please, like, worth it.
Nitrous me up, yeah.
And
Big time.
nitrous me up. And I'm terrified of the dentist, but I was like, you can stand in there. Like, I don't care. Do you know, you can just, you give me enough nitrous, I don't care what's happening.
Go to work, doc.
Recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we got one more here from deformed_za. If you could go back to any age, as in years of your life, not historic era, what would you choose?
Go back to years of my life.
Do you have to go back and stay there, or do you get to like go back like and hang out for a week? Because
Yeah,
it
I
would
don't know.
change how I'm thinking about it, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a tough one. Thinking about it with ages instead of like eras.
I would say either senior year of college or like 24.
Sophomore
And
year of
why?
high school.
It's got to be pre-kids, like step one.
Yeah.
Oh, John.
Anytime before you have kids,
Oh.
it's great.
Please.
Just being young and like the world is your oyster, and you can use substances with less consequence,
Yeah.
so on and so forth.
I have a couple specific time, but I think I would go back to like a time when summer felt like an event, like when summer actually seemed like it lasted a long time.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'd probably
Now
go
it's
back
just
to
hell
like
because your kids are around.
I'd probably go back to like 24 or 23, 24, like when Colleen and I first met.
Can't say as I would do that.
I think I want to go back to like 14, 15, because like you never love music the way you do as when you're 14 or 15. Like I could never get that and there's some people who I could exact some revenge on at 14 or 15 now.
I had a particularly wild
probably need it.
relationship. I had a particularly wild relationship at 15. I wouldn't mind revisiting if I could go back in time. I've lived a life, John. You never ask, so you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But I've had some things.
Come on. You know.
Do you want to like do that
guess that makes
again, or
sense.
do you want to?
Oh yeah, no, just repeat.
Oh, just press play.
No
repeat,
improvements.
nothing
Just
different.
let's just roll this back.
Ended horribly. I don't care.
Yeah. Okay, Eric, I think it's in your court.
Yeah.
All right.
It's all you, dude.
As per usual, I'm not ready. Oh,
It's all right. They
right.
just they indicted our mayor just now, so I'm a little distracted.
Eric Adams. What?
Oh yeah,
For Diddy?
straight up.
Is he in league with Diddy? What happened?
I mean, they haven't even announced what it is. It's a question now of if he's gonna fucking turn himself in, or yeah, it's gonna be fun. Yeah.
That's wild, dude.
We've been waiting. We're here rubbing our hands together. It's just
Yeah.
it's
I love
wild.
this question. What actor would you cast to play the better you? This is from Brian. My
better me?
answer. See, my problem is I don't know enough young actors, like because that's the point. My answer was Elijah Wood, although I'm pretty sure we're like the same age. so
He's
it doesn't really
he's either your age or like a little older. I'd say.
matter. He's the same age. I'm pretty sure.
He looks younger.
Well, there you go. That counts. Just to get that hair.
Well, hold on. Let's ask the reverse question. Who
He's
would
43.
you?
He's old. He's older than me.
Yeah. Who would you be the younger version of?
Oh my
Gandalf.
God. The younger version, John. Imagine you like sell your soul for this thing, and I come out like just like, God damn it.
Well, I just like if like an
Abort.
80-year-old does it, does like a 40-year-old come out? You know, like what?
Right. No, it's got to be a 20. It's got to always be a 20-year-old because that's
Yeah.
what you want. 40-year-old is better, but it's still disappointing.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
I know. I don't know any 20-year-olds.
I mean, like literally, I can't name any child. You know,
I don't know any 20-year-olds.
it'd be Jacob Elordi. He's pretty hunky.
Dude, Jacob Elordi, Schnars,
That could
go.
work.
Schnarzlganger.
I don't know if he looks. We don't really have a. He just
Yeah, no,
that's
isn't
like
he the
one
one
name.
in that movie? The one.
The Saltburn.
Yeah, dude. No, I think that's perfect. That's a perfect.
Oh, good.
role.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. I got it.
Would you do the substance? Since I can't ascertain literally any upside, no, I would not.
Yeah, it seems mostly bad for the older
It
person.
seems really
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
I've already got enough back problems. I don't need mine split open.
No.
Polly Muller, I absolutely can't wait for the take from whichever Zombie Girls guest joins you. So there you go.
There you go. I don't know. Tilly, was your take strong enough? Is the question. It's pretty strong. You came out swinging.
recommend.
Yeah.
Rachel says the puppet from What We Do in the Shadows is what's coming out of Tilly's back.
That's true. That's
could
actually
see
true.
it.
The doll, the
Yeah.
Nadja doll. Yeah.
Chris says, would you be able to contain yourself if Schnars took the substance? My response to this was, you don't need it, John.
Hey, thanks. man.
Aw.
Thanks, bro.
Killing it.
Yo, call me in 20 years though.
Yeah.
I'm trading in.
That's the thing. You know, when you're young, 40 seems so old. And then you have 40 and you're like, I mean, I feel old as shit, but like it could be a
not
lot
that old.
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean we talked about it a little bit during. I wonder how much the director is a parent, and maybe I probably could have looked this up because like when you have kids, like my son, like he is like a younger version of me. Like I don't need to imagine it. Like it's like what would come out if I took it right now, you know? And so
Yeah.
this whole
my
like
one daughter is like me in the worst ways.
yeah, but the generational battle, like that shit's real on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know.
Battletoads is asking if I'm going to put this in my top 10. I hadn't thought about it, actually. Suppose I should take a look, huh? While I do that, let's see. This is a great one. Oh, typical stereo. What's everyone's secret to staying young?
I mean, I run a lot, like probably more than
Yeah. Believe it
the
or
I
average
not,
clearly
person,
haven't
for
found
sure.
believe it or not, all this could be much worse. So like I've been going to I went to bed at 9:30 last night and that felt I felt good when I got
So
up this
nice.
morning. I also, because I had so much anxiety yesterday, I was only able to drink like a quarter of the caffeine I normally do. And I slept like a baby last night and now I'm like, God damn it, do I need to just stop drinking all caffeine altogether? So
I
I'm
sleep.
on
I'm
but-
I'm like 7.5, 8 hours a night, or I don't. I feel
really good
bad,
sleep,
so,
no alcohol, lots of protein and fiber is my secret.
drink plenty of alcohol, but then make sure you're working out consistently to offset.
But that,
the-
see, dude, I don't
Sweat
think
it
that-
out.
I think that catches up to you after a while.
it definitely does. I'm not saying it's a great idea, but you know,
I was gonna say lots of water and herbal additives.
I know. I maybe have a weird answer, which is that I am so uninterested in staying young. I'm so delighted that I feel so relieved by aging because less is expected of me that's energetic.
Yeah.
Like the second I
relate to
turned
that.
50, I was like signing up for the senior center. I was like, give me the stained glass class and
I
gentle
do
Pilates.
definitely relate to that.
My neighbor,
Pilates.
Jesus, I'm just tired.
I ran into my neighbor outside the day of my birthday when he turned 50, taking the trash out. And she told me, happy birthday. And she's like, it's nice when you turn 50 because that's when you stop giving a shit. And
No,
she
I
was
mean-
right.
Yeah.
even like I'm 42, like the amount that I care about what other people think has lessened like exponentially, even in the last 5 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And by 50, it just disappears.
You just largely I feel like
Oh, yeah.
you feel much more comfortable with yourself than ever. I think I mean, even people who struggle, like it does, there's just a natural thing that happens with aging that's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this is like this is what you're getting. It's not changing. So
Exactly.
either
This is
enjoy
it.
the GTS.
Yeah.
it's only going one way.
Yeah. Blob Nelson, what role changed your opinion of an actor you were previously meh on? 21 Jump Street, Channing Tatum was my answer. I had this 2 weeks in a row. He's coming up, but yeah.
Mine's a stretch because I haven't had a problem with it for a long time, but there was a period that I thought Colin Farrell was just kind of smug asshole, and I didn't like most of his movies.
Dude, Friday Night remake.
Well, but yeah, but nowadays, especially after watching The Penguin that just kicked off,
Oh yeah,
oh my God, that dude's amazing.
Every time he comes up, I always tell people on the show, go watch that Friday Night remake because he fucking kills it. He is so
Yeah,
good
it's
at that
great.
movie. And the other one is, it's an awful season, but season 2 of True Detective, he's fantastic in it. It's just like
Yeah.
the writing is
Mm-hmm.
terrible.
But watching him
It's funny for
disappear
me. It
into
is
that penguin
McConaughey
makeup. Oh yeah,
Yeah, True Detective, the first season. Yep.
in
Yeah.
True Detective. I think I'm more like meh on him as a human, but yeah, that did.
See, I
switch
think I'm
me
getting old
into
enough
being
that his
into him.
brand of like wide-eyed optimism is actually working for me. His like inspirational dude bro thing.
you're like buying what's it called? Green
my-
lights. What's the
my
name
biggest-
of the book?
Buying what, John?
His book. It was like he had like a big
Oh.
best-selling memoir.
I'm not reading this book, but I'll
I-
watch it.
I didn't
I'll watch
actually
a
think-
50-second reel or something.
Good lord.
Little Boy Brew, will watching this make me feel icky? The answer is yes.
Probably.
Yeah, did you, after seeing this in the morning, Schnars, did you go straight home and take a shower?
No, I was fine. Look,
I thought this was interesting from Whitney. Why did the director feel the audience was stupid, pointing at the diner scene specifically? I think this is kind of to my point. I think what she's talking about is the fact that the guy in the diner scene says a bunch of things textually that I think are pretty obvious from the movie you're watching. You know what I mean? Like where he's like, it's getting worse and worse. It gets worse and worse. Like he just verbalizes things that maybe he didn't need to. But I guess my only counterpoint is that I think that scene is pretty in line with her writing and filmmaking. Like
yeah,
the film,
I don't know.
the whole film in itself says a lot of things textually that it maybe didn't need to, but she's sort of making that choice.
Well, I think it also just
Yeah.
set up to show that other people are having the same struggle she is, too.
Oh no, Renee. I felt personally victimized by how charming I found Glenn Powell in Twisters.
Yeah.
No, Renee. No.
He's great.
We do not abide by Glenn Powell on this show. John, he's a saltine cracker of a man.
Twisters. Look, Twisters is great. He's good in
literally
Top Gun
like
Maverick too.
He's literally like a movie star made in a lab, and I just hate it so much. Like he's from the substance.
Eric, you mark my words. You mark my words. He's going to be in something in the next, it might be 10 years, but you're going to see him. You're going to go, wow. I never
Okay,
thought
someone
about Glenn Powell
please
that way."
remember that and put a pin in it so we can.
I
go
can't
back to
wait.
it.
It's going to be like season 18 of True Detective, and he's going to be the McConaughey. You're going to be
Season
like, holy
18.
shit. They're not going to get it, but you know what I mean.
I hate that guy. We answered that one. Oh well. Michael, who would you want to be birthed out of your back? I'd go Corey from Halloween Ends. I hate that answer so much.
Corey.
Last question of the evening: is 2024 the horniest year of horror ever?
Ever? That seems strong. There
I
were
would need
some
to do some research.
pretty horny years.
I'd need some
Yeah.
lists and some screenshots in front of me to tell
It's
you.
been
Well,
a hell of a
so-
year for spandex, though.
Are we just because we're what else? Like what the other horny movies like Maxine,
Yeah.
like Blink
Maxine wasn't
Twice
that
is
horny.
like not horny necessarily, but
Maxine
pretty
was
fun.
not so horny. Yeah.
No, it's
No,
really,
no.
like,
Love
Maxine
Lies
was not-
Bleeding.
Love Lies
Oh
Bleeding was
yeah, the horror adjacent. Let's say.
Shush your mouth, John.
I know it's gonna be on some people's top 10 list. Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. You know,
Oh, I was gonna say, was Godzilla -1 last year with his huge booty,
that was
Yeah.
last year. Yeah,
his cheeks? Yeah, that was pretty horny.
Saltburn. That was also last year. That
Saltburn,
was
yeah, okay.
quite horny.
Yeah, we did. We reviewed that in January, I think.
Yeah, we did. I mean, Trap with Josh Hartnett is just all making us feel things.
Yeah, made me horny. Was not horny. In
It wasn't
content.
itself horny. It was actually like you watch that to calm
Ain't
I don't know.
horny.
I don't know if I mentioned this in the show, but he does have a Schnarzian quality.
Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, for sure. Old
I
man Josh
don't know.
Hartnett for sure.
It's never clear to me what qualifies. As I've said in the past, it's like any generic white man of
John, I'm
some level of
incredibly good at
attractiveness.
pattern recognition. Please understand that
Yeah.
I'm correct.
Okay, fair. Look, I take it as a compliment. It's just
I one time saw this thing. I read this study. Maybe you've seen this, Matilda, but I read this. They did a study and they found out that people are generally attracted to and end up marrying people with a certain percentage of very similar facial features. And once I fucking read
Really?
that, I cannot unsee it. When next time you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you see a random couple post a picture, like 95% of the time, it's spooky when you are really
Really?
looking for it, how similar people's facial features
Well,
are.
there's always this like joke that like older married couples start to look alike, but maybe they like start out kind of looking alike
Yeah.
and then they just sort of like grow
Or look like
old
they're
and-
dogs.
So what my
Maybe
brain
they love dogs that also have similar facial.
what my brain
features.
does
That
know,
look
right?
like them.
Because on a surface glance, people might look very different, but what you got to do is center in on the nose, the mouth and the teeth, the eyes, the ear. Like if
Like
you
all
if
the
you
parts of
start
the face.
looking, but if you start looking at specific parts, not the whole, you will 1,000% begin to see it. And it almost makes me giggle because some couples you just see and you're like, you are brother and sister. Like, this is insane. Last comment of the day. Eric's disdain for Glenn Powell has replenished all my dopamine today. There you go. Hate him.
Very good. Do we know what we're covering next week?
I don't know, but the week after that is VHS, whatever it's called.
Oh, my
I'd like
God.
to do that, so I don't have to go to a goddamn movie theater.
Never Let Go is currently in theaters. There is also Speak No Evil, which is still in theaters. Those are the two that are out.
I probably cannot get to a theater again this week. We might have to offline it and figure it out.
Then, yeah, let's take this offline. There's some stuff we can punch in there. Are you sure? I thought VHS was coming out this week.
No. It's October 3rd.
I can't even roll my eyes hard enough
out
about this thing. But
it's coming out. No, look at the people who are making it though. It's coming out like October 4th, so I think that we're just gonna miss our next show for that.
Okay.
Oh yeah, the Apartment 7A looks good.
We'll talk about it. Check me out, Hi-Fi and Spotify. HY-FY. My new album called Ghost is out there. It's perfect for spooky season fun times. Matilda, where can people find you?
People can find me and the rest of the Zombie Girls over at Zombie Girls GRRL or Z Girls GRRLV.
Oh, no. They're never gonna find you.
Casey, where can people find you?
You can find me on Threads at cinema.fromage, and you can also find my new T-shirts at cinemafromage.threadless.com.
John, where can people find you in New York City this week? Specifically,
I live on the Upper East Side. You just want to like walk around and like kind of yell my name. I might respond, and yeah, but otherwise, I'm on LinkedIn, so
I bet you are.
Look me up.
I bet you post on LinkedIn.
I don't. I actually don't.
Rachel says the front room hits VOD this week. Which one's the front room?
Oh, that's the one with Brandy, where there's like the evil grandmother. I'm pretty in for that.
Yeah.
We could do that. I'm down with that.
Yeah. All right. Let's.
And then just catch up on the other stuff we missed on video.
Yeah. Okay. Front room it is.
Love it. That's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you next week.
See yous.
Bye.
Bye-bye.